Kenya joins the world to mark the International Pharmacist Day, and the theme this year is Pharmacy Strengthening Health Systems. This morning, we look at the role of pharmacists in the global health, achieving global health, and case in point right here in Kenya, achieving the government's, the ambitious universal health coverage. In studio, I'm now joined by Dr. Bethuel Libea. He's a pharmacist and also consultant. He's just sitting next to me, Libea, consultant at the Pharmaceutical Procurement and Supply Chain Management, while at the far end is Dr. Misha Korio Odenyo, a pharmacist once again and official at the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're having at a time when I would say it's a crisis in the pharmaceutical industry right here in Kenya. Conversations of even doctors advising patients not to do over the counter because of the quacks that we have out here. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation, because how do you know that this pharmacy is headed by a qualified pharmacist or not? But anyway, let's begin by the World Pharmacist Day. What is the significance of this day? What the challenges that we are seeing here in Kenya, for example, on the quacks and over the counter? Was it the agenda that brought medics together and said, what, let's have this day to sanitize the sector? Let me begin with you, Dr.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Purity, for having me on this particular discussion. And today is a special day for the pharmacy fraternity, if I may put it that way, because we are celebrating World Pharmacist Day. And this day specifically is to amplify the significant role that a pharmacist plays in the entire healthcare ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And so, and you've mentioned most specifically here in Kenya, because if you look at a pharmacist among the 33 plus cadres of healthcare professionals, it's one of the highly trained professionals. They are one of the highly trained professionals, but also highly underutilized. And most of these problems is systemic. Systems have been crafted in such a way that the pharmacist is not utilized to the best way they're meant to be utilized. And the repercussions of that, it's visible for everyone to see, and you've captured some of them. We have the issue of quacks in the market. We have the issues of drugs being misused. We have issues of antibiotics being misused, because people who then end up handling medication, most of them may not necessarily be qualified professionals to do that. And so having this day is to amplify the voice of a pharmacist, to amplify the significant role that they play, and also to let the public know that we have these professionals that can help you as far as your medicine needs are concerned. So this is the significance of this day. Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. And before we get to, who a pharmacist is and who is a qualified pharmacist, because he mentioned that pharmacists are highly unutilized. We are seeing pharmacies mushrooming everywhere in the city, up country, When you talk about being unutilized, and there are so many pharmacies in the country and across, until most patients don't even go to the hospital, they just go and they are prescribed over the counter. Maybe you can elaborate on, when you talk about being unutilized, what exactly does he mean, really? Yeah.
Okay, thank you once again for inviting us to the studio today to talk on this issue about the Pharmacy Week. As my colleague has just talked about, pharmacists are highly underutilized. If you look at the cadre and the knowledge of pharmacists that we have in the country, there are quite many who can be used in strengthening the health systems in the country. So you find that, just as my colleague has said, the problem is systemic. And one of the ways of maybe addressing this is maybe to see how the regulations can be put in such a way that we can be able to control some of these, like you said, quacks, And it has become so much of a trade until the pharmacy practice itself has been neglected. So that is why we are here to amplify that and to let the public know at least what is happening in the pharmacy field and what the pharmacists are doing in terms of trying to strengthen the health systems. Yes.
Yeah, and Dr. be telling us what the role is, but the infighting within the healthcare sector, is it the one causing all this problem that you're not able to, for example, here in Kenya achieve the universal health coverage? Because I'll give you an example. If I go to the hospital and the doctor tells me, make sure you do not buy over-the-counter medicine, and like you said, the role of a pharmacist is not just to dispense the medicines, but that is what literally we know the role of a pharmacist is. So can again a pharmacist, for example, prescribe a drug to a patient, and when the doctor says that, it means that there is some lack of trust that you might go over the counter and you're given drugs that are not appropriate. Work in unity, and their value is appreciated as well.
I think one of the ways in which this can be addressed is through the regulations.
Yeah.
You find that the current regulations that is being used in the country, which is called CAP 244, was developed in 1956. Yeah, and since then there have been a lot of developments in the medical sector in terms of the drugs that are out there, how they are dispensed, and things like that. So one of the ways of trying to regulate this is, like my colleague has just said, we need to have proper laws in place that specify what a pharmacist does, what a pharmacist technology does, so that there's that clear delineation. Yeah, because you find like right now there's the Kenya Drug Authority bill that is being discussed in Parliament. I think as the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, our leaders have canvassed this a lot, and we want to thank you, the media, for always coming and inviting pharmacists, or when we are having our meetings, at least helping us to highlight this. So currently, as we are trying to draft the new regulations, you find that there are a bit of challenges that are there. And some of these regulations that the pharmacists are trying to bring in, it's not rocket science. It's not something that we're developing from ourselves. We find that these are international best practices, yeah? So you find like whatever the government is trying to implement, like the universal health care, the sustainable development goals, there's the issue of every person has to have the right for higher standards of quality. Yeah, so this is where we are trying to, as a pharmacist, to lobby the Parliament. At least they can draft this bill in such a way that it will be progressive. Because we have pharmacists who have a lot of knowledge, we interact with our partners outside the country, we have development partners, we have policy makers, and some of the proposals that the pharmacists are giving are based on these discussions that we've been having. And if Kenya is to move forward and have better healthcare, better medicine regulations and the use, I think it's important that this bill is critically looked into, and the stakeholders, whatever stakeholders are bringing on board, to be taken in and adopted in the country.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll have that revolving problem of always having medical issues, medical prescriptions, and things like that. Yeah.
And that's point, Doctor, thank you so much, especially on the touching on the storage of medicines, because I almost asked about that. So you've all, the two of you, agreed that there is a sibling rivalry within the healthcare sector, and it's majorly the root cause of all these problems that we are seeing, because there's no coordination, there's no cooperation. You had quickly talked about the Kenya Drug Bill, the Kenya Drug Authority Bill, for example, that is before Parliament. So I've heard pharmacists and even experts saying it's going to be a game changer in the drug in the medicine industry, because this getting rid of the cartels in the industry and ensuring that the quacks, for instance, are not part of the negotiation. So maybe you can tell us more about the bill, the KDA bill, and what it aims to achieve. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that question. The Kenya Drug Authority Bill, it's a regulation that seeks to better enhance the regulation of not only medicines, but of chemicals, things like veterinary products, medical device, because we find that the scope of pharmaceutical services is sort of expanded, yeah? And that is why we are saying we are trying to hold discussions among the industry and the stakeholders to be able to ensure that these regulations that are out there and we are benchmarked against are incorporated into the current bill. So you find that currently the bill that is in Parliament mostly is sort of, we can say it's more of trade related. When you look at some of the proposals that have been put across, you find that we need to have technical people in technical areas. Like, for example, you find that the proposal for the regulator that is being proposed right now, you find that the pharmacist is not in the middle of all this. You find that engineers maybe have also been part of this, and this is what is causing the problem in our country. You find that, for example, something to do with pharmacist, it's been watered down to say that pharmaceutical special technologies or something. There's that clear delineation. There's a problem there, and that's what the pharmacy practice and the pharmacy profession is really trying to push for the country to adopt. Yeah, for us to have better regulation in terms of the medicines, and this will also bring in campus cosmetics, because I think cosmetics there are some therapeutic cosmetics which are currently not regulated. We have chemicals in some of these which can harm the patient and things like that. So all these things need to be under proper control, and that is why we were saying the pharmacist's job goes beyond dispensing. There is so much more in which a pharmacist can play a role. And just one last point is that we are trying to see whether this Kenya Drug Authority bill, they can change their name into Kenya Medical Health Products and Technologies, so that it can encompass all these therapeutic classifications, and we are able to develop a bill and an act that will drive the country forward in terms of regulations of medicine, and we are able to develop a bill and an act that will drive the country forward in terms of regulations of medicine, because as the government is also trying to boost local manufacturing of medicines, which is very good, and these are some of the areas that as pharmacists we are trying to push, to have that local self-sufficiency. And I think a case in point is the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it brought to fore some of the challenges that most countries are having in terms of having that self-sufficiency. So you find that the pharmacists are trying to put in place structures in whereby the government can support the local industry so that we can also be self-sufficient and can be able to meet the medical needs of the patients. And as a result, the universal healthcare coverage will be taken into consideration. Thank you.
All right. Odenyo, what is the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya doing really? Because I think you are an umbrella body for the pharmacists to ensure that there is public trust as far as the industry is concerned. Yeah.
Okay, yes. The Pharmacy Society of Kenya has been very active on this front in terms of engaging the government, parliament, stakeholders, policy makers, in trying to ensure that there is better regulation, And we've had some of our members...
And did you say there is better regulation now?
There is better regulation, but it needs to be strengthened. And not only strengthened, you see, the health sector is really moving at a very fast pace, You can look at what is happening in the US concerning the AI and new things coming up, So if you look also in the pharmacy sector, there are things like biotherapeutic medications which are coming, biological drugs. You see, these are things which can only be handled by a specialist pharmacist who has been trained. And when you look at the scope in which pharmacy has evolved, you find that these days we have pharmacists who are, like my colleague said, medicine therapeutic management. You find that there are pharmacists who are specialized in hypertensive medicines. You find that there are pharmacists who are specialized in diabetic medicines, those kind of cadres. So this is what we are trying to push in terms of increasing the role of pharmacists and giving more access to pharmacies. Because I think also when the devolved government came, you find that our laws still remain the same. And that is why sometimes we have challenges maybe in the counties in terms of employing pharmacists and ensuring that pharmacists are in each and every sector, in the hospitals especially. Because I think it is a common knowledge. Most of the time when we interact with patients, for example, when you're dispensing a medicine, you'll try a pharmacist does not just sell for you that medicine. A pharmacist will talk to you, will try and ask you, what has the doctor told you? And I can guarantee you 90% of the time, the patients don't know what they've been prescribed or how to do it. And you see, it is that pharmaceutical knowledge that will be able to guide these patients. So that, for example, there are some drugs, probably if you take a way of excretion is maybe the urine will be orange, or maybe when you go for a long call, your feces will be black. You find that these are things that pharmacists already have that knowledge. Yeah? And instead of a patient panicking, it's the pharmacist who can be able to come and tell the patient, okay, this is not a side effect, this is not a bad, this is just part of the excretion of that drug. Yeah. And one major important thing that we also want to highlight concerning the Kenya Drug Authority bill is that to get hold of the problem that you're seeing, the sibling rivalry and things like that, the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya is trying to push for a pharmacy practice bill, yeah, which a proposal has been made, and I think also this has been submitted to Parliament. And we are really asking the parliamentarians to take this seriously, because if we don't put these regulations in place and these specializations and people to do the jobs that which they are trained for, this is an effort in futility in terms of improving the healthcare of the country and being able to give patients the quality of medicine that they deserve, that are safe and efficacious.
All right, and time is not on our side. We have to wrap it up now, but thank you so much, Dr. Bethuel Libea, for being here. Also, thank you, Dr. Mesha Kodenyo, for making time for us. I wish you all the best in your campaign today.
Thank you very much.
All right, that brings us to